Laker updates, guys, but we're gonna head straight into things because we probably got the worst news as Laker fans, as Austin Reaves is out with an injury.
Bronny James responded to Austin Reaves' injury, pointing to ball security, quick decisions, and a young group of guards he called hungry. He focused on the game. Here is how Bronny James reacted to Austin Reaves' injury. One night, 2 stars, 1 collapse. The Lakers went into April 2026 on the back of a 15-2 run in March. Playoff seeding in the West had them half a game ahead of the Nuggets for the 3rd seed, with 5 regular season games still on the schedule. The 2 players driving the offense, Austin Reaves and Luka Doncic, were healthy and producing. The title conversation in Los Angeles was real. Then came the night of April 2-3. The Lakers played the Oklahoma City Thunder. They lost by more than 40 points, and in the middle of that loss, both Reaves and Doncic went down. Reaves noticed something in his oblique area early in the game. He was evaluated by the medical staff on the sideline and cleared to return. He played on. Doncic's hamstring became a problem in the 3rd quarter. He played on too. Coach Reick later admitted the group wanted to go for it in the 2nd half. The team, the staff, the players, all of them choosing to push through. The MRIs that came in after the game told a different story. Both players had confirmed partial tears. On April 4th, 2026, Shams Charania delivered the news through ESPN. Austin Reaves, grade 2 left oblique muscle injury, out for the rest of the regular season. Expected recovery, 4-6 weeks. That window put him out at the start of the playoffs. The same window Luka Doncic was already sitting in, dealing with a grade 2 left hamstring strain. Both leading scorers, same game, same night, same exit. Shams described it as a devastating run of injuries to LA's 2 leading scorers. A grade 2 strain is partial muscle damage, not a full tear, but not a minor pull either. For Reaves, the oblique is involved in nearly every rotational movement on a basketball court: shooting, contesting, driving laterally. Medical experts note that these injuries are notoriously stubborn in high-usage guards, with re-injury risk a consistent and documented concern if return timelines are rushed. For Doncic, the grade 2 hamstring strain carries identical risk, a muscle group that, when partially torn and pushed too hard in a recovery window, becomes a recurring liability. The backdrop to all of this: the Lakers had been one of the best teams in basketball through the month of March. 15 wins, 2 losses. They were not a team in decline. They were a team with momentum, building toward a playoff push with both of their key players on the court and contributing. One blowout loss changed everything. The depth chart the morning of April 5th had no Doncic and no Reaves. That left LeBron James, 41 years old, as the primary playmaker and scorer, Luke Kennard in the starting backcourt, Rui Hachimura sliding up in the front court, and behind them, a backcourt committee of Bronny James, Kobe Buffkin, Nick Smith Jr., and the possibility of Marcus Smart returning from his own injury absence. Reaves and Doncic had been combining for around 70 minutes per game in the stretch before going down. Those minutes needed to be redistributed across a roster that was not built to absorb them. Scrutiny on the medical staff was immediate and public. Why were both players cleared mid-blowout in the 3rd and 4th quarters of a game already decided by 40 points? What did the in-game evaluations miss that the post-game MRIs found? The questions did not have clean answers on April 5th. They still don't. Bronny James had been getting around 13 minutes per game in recent games, sharing the court with LeBron in live situations. After April 4th, analysts identified him as the primary ball-handling option among the healthy guards. Reick called the process ahead trial and error, buying enough time for the stars to return while figuring out what the available pieces could actually produce. Trial and error in the final week of the regular season, with playoff seeding on the line and 2 stars on the injury report, is not a phrase that carries comfort. It is a phrase that carries uncertainty, and the weight of that uncertainty fell, in part, on Bronny James. So the question the entire NBA world had after April 4th was the same. What did Bronny James actually say about all of this? In order to understand his reaction, the words he chose, the tone he took, and what it reveals, we need to go directly to what he said. What Bronny actually said. The media session came in the days following the injury announcements, ahead of a game against the Dallas Mavericks. Bronny James sat down with reporters from the Southern California News Group and the OC Register. He had a full platform and a very simple choice: take the moment and run with it, or redirect the attention back to the team. He chose the team, entirely and without apparent hesitation. His words, "I think I learned a lot, just trying to not play with the ball as much. Get my team into whatever action we are in as quick as possible. We just need to take care of the ball better." Read that without the noise surrounding it. A second-year player, son of LeBron James, navigating one of the most scrutinized roster spots in the history of the franchise, suddenly thrust into expanded responsibility, with a fan base in meltdown mode and the nepotism debate at full volume. And his response to all of it is, ball security and quick decisions. Not an opportunity, not my time. Now I'm ready to show what I can do. The entire frame of his answer pointed outward, toward the team's execution, not inward toward his own moment. That is a deliberate choice, whether instinctual or coached. And it is worth noting, he named the young group of guards around him, himself, Kobe Bufkin, Dalton Knecht, Nick Smith Jr., and called them hungry. In the context of a roster stripped of its two leading scorers, that word is doing real structural work. It signals intention. It signals that this group is not in survival mode, not just trying to get through 5 regular season games until the stars come back. They see the window and they are coming at it with appetite. There was no commentary on the medical staff decisions that cleared both players mid-blowout. There was no frustration at the situation, no suggestion that the team had been mismanaged into a crisis, no mention of the nepotism narratives that have circled his name since before he was drafted, no reference to the viral on-court moment days earlier against the Mavericks, where LeBron was caught loudly correcting Bronny over a pass choice in real time. None of it, just ball movement, quick decisions, take care of the ball. This level of composure in a media setting for a player carrying the particular weight Bronny James carries is not a given. It takes practice to strip a public response down to its essentials and remove every trace of grievance or self-promotion. Most players, most veterans, struggle with it. Bronny delivered it as a sophomore. LeBron's own public framing mirrored it precisely. He called the injuries a collective challenge, not a disaster, not a collapse, not a reason to adjust expectations, a challenge, a mental reset, no catastrophizing, the father and the son from separate microphones, delivering essentially the same measured message to the same audience. The discipline in. That alignment is worth noticing. Whether it reflects genuine calm, strategic media training, or both, the result is a unified public tone from the James household at a moment when the easiest thing would have been to let the emotion show. But underneath Bronny's composure in that interview is something his coach had been watching for weeks, something that was already developing before the injuries made him a story. JJ Redick had an observation he had been sitting on, and when the media attention swung toward Bronny after April 4th, Redick said it plainly. In order to understand what Redick saw and what it tells us about Bronny's actual readiness for this moment, we need to go straight to the coach. What JJ Redick saw. There is a version of the Bronny James story that has always centered on the surname, the nepotism version. The version where the conversation begins and ends with his father's name on the roster and never really gets to the player underneath it. And then there is the version JJ Redick has been watching from the bench, game by game, practice by practice, over 2 seasons. That version looks different. Because while the injury announcements were breaking on April 4th, while the internet was producing memes and the rotation analysts were drawing up emergency depth charts, Redick had already been sitting on a specific observation about Bronny James. One that he had formed not in response to the crisis, but in spite of it. When the cameras found him, and the question came, he didn't reach for cautious coaching speak or careful deflection. He reached for a word nobody expected.
You know, there was so much attention to it and stuff, and kind of in the darkness, Bronny's just been kind of getting better.
In the darkness, that framing is deliberate and pointed. Redick is not offering a polite coaching compliment designed to boost a player's confidence before a big game. He is making a structural observation. The noise, the scrutiny, the nepotism debate, the viral moments, the constant filtering of Bronny through the lens of his father has become the surrounding environment, the darkness in which Bronny's actual development has been happening. And according to the man who watches him every single day, the development has been real and continuous, even as the noise has been at its loudest. That is a different kind of accountability than most players in the NBA ever face. The standard second-year player makes mistakes in relative obscurity, adjusts his game away from national cameras, and builds his craft without a running public commentary on whether he earned his minutes. Bronny James does not have that. Every game is examined through the nepotism frame. Every poor decision becomes content. Every solid performance gets undercut by the question of whether it would have happened elsewhere. And through all of it, Reick is saying, Bronny has been getting better. But Reick didn't stop at that observation. He connected it to a specific game, one he singled out as a moment where the team genuinely needed Bronny to show up. And he walked through, in precise coaching terms, exactly what Bronny brought.
Felt like this was a game we really needed him. It was a game that, you know, his athleticism, his defense.
Notice what Reick goes to first. Not scoring, not shot creation, not ball handling in the pick and roll. The exact skill set the injured Reaves and Doncic would leave a gaping void in. He goes first to defense, to athleticism deployed in service of stopping the other team. In a backcourt now stretched paper thin by injury, individual defensive competence is not a luxury. It is load-bearing.
You know, he had two really good defensive possessions, individual defense in the first half.
2 defensive possessions in the first half, identified and named by the head coach in a public setting. Individual defense is one of the most technically demanding skills in the league, one of the last to develop and the first to erode under pressure. A second-year player delivering 2 possessions that his coach considers worth mentioning by name in a press conference is not a footnote, it is a data point. And then Reick gave the headline, the one word that reshapes the entire conversation around Bronny James at this precise moment.
I think the biggest thing with him is he's got a lot of confidence right now.
Confidence, present tense, active, not developing confidence, not showing flashes, not the kind of careful, conditional praise coaches use to protect a young player from expectations they can't yet meet. A lot of confidence, right now. From a coach who chose that word on camera, deliberately, knowing it would land in a media cycle, already focused entirely on what Bronny James is and is not capable of. For a player who has spent 2 full seasons swimming upstream against the current of every take about whether he belongs in an NBA uniform, that word, delivered in that context by the man who evaluates him every day, means something real. It tells you that whatever is happening in practice, whatever is being built in the film sessions, and the individual workouts that nobody outside the building sees, it is registering in the actual games. The confidence is not manufactured, it is earned. But what this confidence means in practice, what the scale of the challenge ahead actually looks like, and how an entire fan base processed the news that Bronny James is now one of the primary pieces keeping the Lakers' playoff hopes intact, demands a separate conversation. In order to understand the full weight of what was placed on Bronny James after April 4th, we need to look at what happened when the internet got the news. The internet reacts. The numbers sitting behind the reaction give it the shape it needed to explode. The Lakers had gone 15-2 in March. They were not just a playoff team, they were a legitimate Western Conference contender, building momentum at exactly the right point in the calendar. And within the span of 48 hours, both of their leading scorers were placed on the injury report with timelines that reached into the first round of the playoffs. The online response was immediate, intense, and, in the way the internet processes sporting catastrophe, darkly comedic within minutes of the news breaking. The reaction wave on X, formerly Twitter, after Shams' April 4th post went live, was a document of a fan base unraveling in real time. The desperate posts arrived first. I have no words, bro. We are cursed. Oh God, it's so over. This ain't basketball. This is a simulation. Each one trying to find language adequate to a situation that felt engineered to be maximally painful. A team ascending, 2 stars collapsing, the playoffs arriving in 5 games, 1 post cut to the bone, Reaves and Luka out, 41-year-old Bron against the whole Western Conference. That sentence did not arrive in a vacuum. It landed against the backdrop of LeBron James at 41, already managing his workload, already dialing back certain stats in service of winning, now being asked to absorb the load of 2 missing scorers on a team heading into the postseason. The math of that equation was not lost on anyone who ran it. The humor followed quickly, because it always does, and because it is the mechanism through which sports fans survive unprocessable outcomes. GIFs of LeBron golfing circulated as shorthand for early vacation. Edit videos titled "Every Lakers Fan Right Now," set to meltdown footage spread across feeds before the injury report was even officially filed. The meme economy found its footing fast, and then it found Bronny. The Bronny James speculation content split almost immediately into 2 camps, with almost no space between them. The pessimistic camp. Bronny second option hoops loading, we are so cooked. the unexpectedly optimistic camp. The road is now clear for LeBron James and his son Bronny to take over. Those two posts, existing simultaneously in the same feed, capture something real about the Bronny James story and why it generates the kind of attention it does. The same set of facts, Bronny's expanded role, the injury void, LeBron still in the building, lands completely differently depending on what you already believe about the player. There is no neutral read of Bronny James. Every take is preloaded with a framework. The nepotism conversation, which has never required much prompting, resurfaced with new energy and new context. Posts questioning whether Bronny's minutes were ever earned on merit circulated alongside posts arguing that this was the exact crucible in which the question would finally get a real answer. Nepo baby who wouldn't be in the game if it was close was one read. But then, we need a motivated LeBron. If Bronny plays and goes off tonight, then he may as well have earned a spot. That second post is worth sitting with. It is conditional, if Bronny goes off. It is not a dismissal, and it is not unconditional support. It is a challenge issued in real time by a fan who is willing to update their view based on what they see. That is a different posture than the pre-baked takes that dominate most Bronny discussions. It acknowledges that the moment is live and that the outcome is not predetermined. There was also the on-court moment from the Mavericks game, the clip that had already been circulating before the injury news added fuel to the fire, of LeBron visibly and audibly correcting Bronny on a pass choice. LeBron had wanted a bounce pass. Bronny threw a chest pass that deflected off a defender. LeBron's reaction was loud and immediate. The captions wrote themselves. Lee coach in full effect. Lee frustrated. The debate that followed was the same one that always follows when a father corrects a son in public. Is this tough love? Or is this something more raw and complicated breaking through at a difficult moment? That clip sits directly underneath Bronny's composed press conference response. He did not address it. He did not acknowledge the on-court correction or signal any friction. He talked about ball movement and being hungry. The contrast between the internet's noise level and Bronny's public register is the story of part 4 in miniature. But the contrast also points towards something deeper, a question that the fan reaction, for all its heat and speed, has not yet fully articulated. In order to understand what is really at stake for Bronny James in this window, beyond the rotation, beyond the memes, beyond even the nepotism debate, we need to look at the full landscape of pressure he is now standing inside. The pressure cooker. There is a category of athlete who exists in the public imagination, primarily as a symbol, a name before a player, a story before a game. Bronny James has occupied that category since before he suited up for a single professional minute, and 2 seasons into his NBA career, he has not yet been able to step fully out from under it, through no particular failure of his own. The weight is structural. It comes with the surname. It comes with the franchise. It comes with a father who is not just a Hall of Famer, but an active player on the same roster. And it comes with a media environment that has been primed since the day the Lakers drafted him to run a binary. Either Bronny James is proof that nepotism corrupts the league's competitive integrity, or he is proof that the son can outlast the narrative and forge something real on his own terms. That binary has not been resolved in 2 seasons, but the Reaves injury, the Doncic injury, and the 5-game window leading into the playoffs have placed the question under a new kind of light. Because the criticism of Bronny's presence on the Lakers has always rested on a specific assumption, that the organization was carrying him out of obligation to his father, not out of genuine basketball need. That assumption becomes significantly harder to sustain when the team's 2 leading scorers are out for the foreseeable future, and the coaching staff is pointing to Bronny as one of the primary options for ball handling minutes. The question does not disappear, but it changes shape. It shifts from does he deserve to be here to what can he actually do with this? That is a more honest and more interesting question, and it is the one the playoffs will answer. JJ Redick addressed the approach explicitly, not with a motivational speech, not with a call to prove the doubters wrong, with a single, specific, quietly loaded word.
Yeah, I used the word patience the other night, and I think that's the biggest thing, is just having patience with the flow of the game, having patience with me, having patience with his shots.
Patience, not aggression, not approving it mandate. Patience with the game, with the coach, with the shots. That prescription is surgical, and it cuts directly against the current running beneath this entire situation. Because the temptation for a player in Bronny's position, suddenly in the spotlight, with something to prove and a fan base watching every decision, is to force it, to turn one expanded role game into a statement game, to press for moments that have to be allowed to arrive. That is the trap. And Redick is naming it publicly, ahead of time, as a warning and as an instruction. A coach does not reach for the word patience in a media setting unless the player is operating in a genuinely high-stakes environment. It is not what you say to a player having an easy stretch. It is what you say to a player managing multiple competing pressures, the fan base's expectations, the coach's system, the ball, and his own ambition, and needing to be reminded that discipline is the mechanism through which all of it gets converted into winning basketball. That is the environment Bronny James is in, and he has been in it quietly for 2 years. The LeBron layer makes it more complicated still. LeBron has publicly framed the injury situation as a collective challenge, not a crisis, not a reason to lower expectations, but a test of the group's character and adaptability. That framing is consistent with how both James men have spoken publicly, but the private reality of LeBron at 41, now the primary load bearer on a depleted roster, simultaneously mentoring his son's NBA development in real time, in live games, on national television, with playoff stakes, has no real precedent anywhere in the league's history. The on-court correction captured on video during the Mavericks game was a single frame from a much longer film. What that dynamic looks like under playoff pressure, with no Reaves and no Doncic absorbing minutes and attention, is a question that only the postseason will answer. One publication called The Window Now in front of Bronny the opportunity of a lifetime. Analysts identified significant playoff minutes as absolutely possible if the Stars miss first-round games. The possibility of a Bronny James playoff start, unlikely based on 2 seasons of evidence, is now a sentence being typed by credible basketball writers for the first time. What Bronny said in response to all of this, the calm, the team-first frame, the word hungry applied to a young group with nothing yet proven, is a message to every version of this conversation at once, to the nepotism critics and the conditional supporters, to LeBron on the bench and Reick on the sideline, to the fans who wrote off the season in 4 hours, and the fans who are quietly building a father-son Cinderella narrative. His coach said he has confidence. His coach said patience is the key. He said the group is hungry and the fix is ball security. The playoffs will tell us whether all 3 hold up when the pressure lands at maximum weight. If you enjoyed this video, click on any of the cards on your screen.